think this is going to be the start of a conversation leading ultimately to what Donald Trump's famous for, the art of the deal. They're going to come up with something. And they're not, the Justice Department is not meeting Ghislaine Maxwell just to say, well, she has nothing to contribute. She wants her freedom, make no mistake. And she's going to have to give up something for it. But she can't possibly implicate Donald Trump.
Well, we've got the Jeffrey Epstein files scandal continuing to not go away for the Trump administration. It's carried on escalating today, hasn't it? Officials from the Department of Justice have reportedly met the late sex offender's longtime associate, girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, today. She's currently serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking and other crimes at a federal prison in Florida after being convicted in New York in late 2021. Back in 2020, Donald Trump was asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, and he famously wished her well.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Sarah, when will we know, or will we know anything out of this meeting?
Well, we know that Ghislaine Maxwell has met now with officials from the Justice Department. I would love to have been a fly on the wall. So far, silence is being maintained. But the question is, does she have any compromat on figures besides Donald Trump? Because there's no way that if she wants a reduced sentence or indeed a pardon, which of course is her ultimate hope, that she's going to dish the dirt, if there is any, I should say, and there may not be any, on Donald Trump. I think what Alan Dershowitz, who is himself a famous lawyer who has himself been a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, has said, is that she's going to seek to make a deal. So what are the contours of those deals? Does it mean saying, well, Jeffrey Epstein was particularly close to X, Y, or Z famous person, hopefully a Democrat, which would suit the Maga crowd, but, really didn't get along that well with Donald Trump, and they just used to pretend to be friends. If they bumped into each other at parties, that would be helpful. But why on earth anyone should believe what she has to say is a mystery.
And if there is compromat, and isn't that a great word for use in this context as well? If there is, why wouldn't the Democrats have unearthed it before now?
Well, indeed. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff floating around. For example, the now famous letter that the Wall Street Journal obtained, allegedly written by Donald Trump for Epstein's 50th birthday, a rather bawdy letter with the outline of a woman. That is supposed to be part of Epstein's estate and could be subpoenaed by Congress if anybody wants to. Ghislaine Maxwell may herself give evidence to Congress, but she has denied through her court case and by launching an appeal, she's denied procuring young women for Jeffrey Epstein and says she's innocent of everything. So she's in a rather curious position now. Is she going to say, well, yes, I know a lot of what's going on and I was involved and here are some names attached, in order to get a pardon or some kind of a deal? But it would sort of be incredibly fishy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Trump's supporters, they really are looking for answers, aren't they? Those who believe that there are conspiracies at large do want to feel satisfied that they know all the information. I mean, we heard today, didn't we, apparently that the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, had told Donald Trump during a May briefing that his name appeared in DOJ documents related to the Epstein case. The White House says that that's fake news and dismissed the story. But I wonder whether the Trump supporters are now getting a little bit frustrated. What are you hearing from them?
Well, some are very frustrated and are making their frustrations plain, but others, frankly, Caroline, are herding back towards Trump because they are inclined to believe their hero. And of course, there's nothing they like better than a war against the mainstream media and the Democrats. So that more that Democrats, who never cared much about the issue previously, it must be said, the more Democrats are clamoring for answers, and the more mainstream newspapers, of which I would include the Wall Street Journal, are also coming up with spicy revelations, the more elements of the Maga faithful, sort of the real Donald Trump boosters, are saying, well, we better give the president the benefit of the doubt. The trouble is that drip by drip, his credibility is being eroded on this issue. I mean, for example, if that book can be released, proving that he was not telling the truth about not having sent a congratulatory letter to Jeffrey Epstein on his birthday, that would further undermine his credibility.
And of course, he's suing over that, isn't he? So, he says that that's all fake news. He's describing the whole furore over the Epstein files as a witch hunt. Do you think, Sarah, is there only going to be the one meeting between the Deputy Attorney General and Ghislaine Maxwell, or do you think there might be another one scheduled?
I think this is going to be the start of a conversation leading ultimately to what Donald Trump's famous for, the art of the deal. They're going to come up with something. And they're not, the Justice Department is not meeting Ghislaine Maxwell just to say, well, she has nothing to contribute. She wants her freedom, make no mistake. And she's going to have to give up something for it. But she can't possibly implicate Donald Trump, which even Republicans say rather undermines her credibility over this issue.
And just to remind us, she's currently serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking and other crimes at a federal prison in Florida. Let us move on to the Fed. Donald Trump's going to make the first visit to the US Central Bank. He's been putting pressure, though, hasn't he, on the Federal Reserve? He's going to tour buildings which are undergoing a multi-billion-dollar renovation. But the White House has also accused the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, of mismanaging. There's been a big lot of chat between those two. Donald Trump really showing his disdain for Jerome Powell at times.
Absolutely. I should declare an interest. I know Jerome Powell because our daughter went to the same school. And although I can't claim to have seen him recently, I know him to be a very honourable man. And I'm beginning to see him rather like that Henry Fonda figure in 12 Angry Men, where he's the only person that is standing up and refusing to be cowed by the president. So I think he's been rather courageous in saying, well, he's going to do things independently of the president, which, of course, Donald Trump can't stand. He wants the Fed to cut interest rates. And if he could arrange it without the market going into a panic, he would indeed fire Jay Powell. Now, this visit to the Fed is all about going to inspect the latest renovations at the Fed, which do seem to be shockingly expensive. Something like $2.5 billion are being spent on these renovations. It's a building site at the moment. And he's going to go and accuse Jay Powell, or this is what I suspect, he's going to accuse Powell of mismanagement. But the fact is that this was always a very expensive project, approved back when Donald Trump was president. Some people who were Trump allies insisted that the Fed use expensive marble for the renovations. It's got to be all blast proof and all kinds of things that are sort of post 9/11 building code for these historic buildings in Washington. But it is a way of saying, how can Jay Powell run the country's finances or run the Fed in that way when he can't control the budget for his own renovation project at the Fed? And so this is, make no mistake, this is a very political visit by Donald Trump. It's not to go and say, hail fellow, well met. He's desperate
Yes.
for Powell to cut interest rates.
Yeah, and Trump says Powell is moving too slowly to cut interest rates, which I imagine is an argument that probably cuts through with the public. I'm sure they'd like a bit more move on interest rates. So I don't know, maybe Trump is echoing thoughts of some of his voters. At the same time, do you think, going back to our earlier discussion, do you think he might be trying to push this whole issue further up the agenda in order to distract from the Epstein issue?
Well, good Lord, everything's a big distraction from the Epstein issue, but also with Donald Trump, every day the story changes, doesn't it? And there's a new narrative that keeps viewers hooked on what the president is up to lately. I do think he does want interest rates to come down. And of course, most Americans do. But what they don't want is what Jay Powell fears, which is inflation. And although some tariff deals are coming through, there was one forged recently with Japan, the fact is that Donald Trump's tariffs imposed on most of the world are likely to be very inflationary, and this accounts for Powell's hesitancy.
Yeah, and just a quick one, Sarah, on the tariffs. When they were first imposed, there was lots of chat about the fact that it would hit American consumers, that they'd see the prices rise. Has there been a sense among the voting public that tariffs are a bad idea, or is there not really is the impact not being felt as strongly as we suspected it might be?
Well, there has been a rise in inflation. It hasn't been dramatic. That's apparently because the tariffs haven't fully hit yet. But, we'll have to see about that. It may not be as inflationary as people feared. Certainly the stock market has rebounded considerably from its swoon when the initial tariff policy was introduced. So things aren't going all that badly in that direction for Donald Trump, but he has lost a lot of support among independents, not among his MAGA base. But his approval ratings at the moment in some polls are under 40%. So that's quite a nosedive from when he was elected, with pretty high approval ratings hovering around the 50%, 49% mark. So I think a lot of people are concerned about the economy. They're not feeling good. They expect to feel better under Donald Trump. That was the whole point of voting for him. So he has a lot to prove in that regard.
Just a quick final one. Did you ever meet Hulk Hogan?
I never did meet Hulk Hogan, but he is nonetheless imprinted on my brain. Certainly that image of him stripping off his shirt at Madison Square Gardens at a huge Republican rally in the run-up to the election to reveal his Trump Vance supporting T-shirt. He was a huge, larger-than-life figure, very controversial, but very all-American. Trump has been effusive in his praise today about his passing. He seems to have died rather young, and it's all come as a shock to his fans who saw him looking well only last summer. But there you are. He's a World of Wrestling WWE legend. And as we know, that world intersects very closely with MAGA supporters. So MAGA is in mourning today.